Hey there, I'm Adrienne, your go to guide on this empowering journey to self love and authenticity. I've transformed my own struggles into strengths, and now I help others navigate their path to their inner knowing and create personal fulfillment. On this show, we're not shying away from tough conversations. We're diving headfirst into topics like self worth, overcoming limiting beliefs, challenging societal norms, and creating a life that's not just successful, but truly fulfilling. We're all about blending heartfelt, soul searching chats with practical, actionable strategies. Think of this podcast as your trusty compass on the path to your most authentic life, mixed with a cozy fireside chat with a dear friend. Ready to uncover your true self and lead a life that's in sync with your deepest desires? You're in the right place, friend. Welcome to the Live Your Truth, Love Your Life podcast. Hey there, I'm Adrienne, and I want to welcome you to Live Your Truth, Love Your Life. First off, thank you for listening. This is my first podcast, and I kind of can't believe it's happening. Finally. I wanted to kick this off by talking about betting on yourself. By that, I mean taking the leap and having faith in yourself that you could do the thing, whatever that thing is for you. This one's tough, right? It's one of those things that sounds easy, but it's hard. Really freaking hard. Speaking from experience. The reason why I wanted to start with this topic is because it's something that I have both struggled with and yet somehow lived by throughout my life. It's something that if you embrace it, it can change your life. Also, in talking about this, I'll be sharing a little of my story so you can get to know me, where I come from, and what I'm all about. So, I grew up in Charlestown, a small part of Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up in the projects in a small apartment with my mom and my brother, and in third grade, my Nana moved in with us. I think I first internalized the idea of betting on yourself from watching my mom when I was a young kid. The one thing in particular that really sticks out that I wanted to share is she went back to school and then changed careers. She went into early education, and I can remember when she started school again to get the required certifications. She was writing her papers and doing her reading in the hockey rink as my brother practiced. She's carrying her books to the beach. She was squeezing time in to get things done in the morning and the evenings, wherever we went throughout the day. As she was putting us to bed after we went to bed, wherever she could find an extra 5 minutes, she did. She decided she wanted a career that more closely matched our school schedules so she could be there for us. And she figured out what would be required to do it, and then she did it. She figured out a way to pay for it and made it happen. As a single mom, that's a leap of faith, and there are a million reasons why this might not have worked out or been too much on top of our already crazy schedule with 2 kids. But somehow, against whatever odds she was up against, that I couldn't have conceived as a kid, she got it done. My memories of her doing this is a touchstone for me and has been throughout a lot of my life. I saw firsthand, modeled for me, that just because something is hard and might seem insurmountable, it's not. You just have to bet on yourself. You have to know that you can do it and figure it out. Sure, this might sound like an oversimplification of things, but I was young, and this is how the story is seared in my memory. She wanted it, and she did it. Another story from when I was young. My brother and I always had some business scheme up our sleeve. We didn't have a lot of money in our house, so we were always dreaming up ways to make some. This included buying cases of soda to sell at construction sites around town, $4.99 for a pack of 24, and we sold them for $1 a piece. We felt like we were rich. I made jewelry, from blue glitter hot earrings, bless my soul, to beaded bracelets, and set up a stand and sold them. The confidence of a kid in the crafts that she made, if only we could all stay that self-assured. The thing is, we thought about how much money we could make. We came up with a few ideas, and then we went and did them. There's no overthinking, no worrying, whatever we were doing wasn't good enough or that someone else was doing it better. We just dreamed up what we wanted to do and we took action. We were betting on ourselves that we could do it. We could sell the thing, we could make the money. Then we could go buy what we wanted with our own money. Of course, as we got older, we got real jobs. But those ridiculous schemes that we had when we were young have stuck with me. We had blind faith that we could be successful, and the crazy thing is, we always were. Fast forward to high school. Tumultuous, insecure time for us all, or at least me. But I decided I wanted to go to college in California. I was a straight A student, history of perfectionism, anyone else. But I knew if I could get a scholarship, I could go anywhere. So when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go, I daydreamed about what I wanted my college life to look like. I visualized it. What kind of weather did I want? What kind of things did I want to do in my free time? What did I want my life to be day in and day out? Not a whole lot of focus on the classes that are offered. Really, it was a focus on what do I want in this new phase of my life? How do I want to be in this new phase of my life? So this is kind of embarrassing to admit, but I was a huge fangirl of Saved by the Bell growing up. Okay, fine. I own all the DVDs still today because that was a thing, and I still find episodes on streaming when I want to just relax and feel nostalgic. Neither here nor there. But it's relevant because when I was thinking about college, I thought about the Malibu summer episodes. Yes, I'm dating myself here. Hello, 90s. And sure, they weren't at college yet, but they lived and they worked at the beach and they were living the life, in my opinion. From that impression, I decided I was going to California, preferably Southern California, because in my mind, the beaches were perfect and that is what I wanted in my life. Did I mention the fact that I've never been in California at that point in my life? Again, didn't have much money, so college visits were not on the horizon. Thank you, AOL dial up, because I scoured the internet for schools in California, specifically ones within close proximity to the beach, and that's where I applied. I know, ridiculous. But I got a scholarship to Chapman University and off I went. My first day in California was the day my mom drove me to my dorm room to move in. The crazy thing is, this was the first time I will have ever left home. I had never even been to a sleepaway camp or summer camp, anything like that. I didn't know a single person in the state of California, but I went for it anyways. I didn't think about the fact that it would be scary. I wouldn't have any friends, no close family. I was living in a new place. I really didn't worry about any of it. Maybe fleeting thoughts here and there, but it just didn't weigh on me. I thought this is the beginning of the rest of my life. Were there people that thought I wouldn't graduate from college, let alone stay in California by myself? Sure. Did they talk shit? Absolutely. But there wasn't a thing in the world that they could say to sway me from going. Still, one of the best decisions of my life to this day. It opened my eyes to a whole new world from the one I grew up in, and I made some incredible friends. My first real adult job following college was in law enforcement. I took a position in middle of nowhere, Arizona, in a career I never thought I'd have. It had a really tough academy, both physically and academically, but it was already done, meaning I knew the job was mine. The obstacles were irrelevant, and I did. I went through it all, and I arrived in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. I fell in love with being outdoors, with hiking, and I made a new life for myself again. This time, I had the experience of moving off to California and having that work out just fine to lean on, and I knew it was the right move, but I sure did not want to leave California and those beaches. But I did. So I spent 12 years with that agency, and I thrived. For the most part, anyways. After I had about 5 years in, I started promoting, and by the time I left, I found myself in an acting deputy position at a station of 400 people. Essentially, I was the second in command at the station, and most of the day, the day-to-day, it was running off my decisions. It was a lot of pressure, and there were a lot of days where I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, but I always figured it out. And this brings me to today. About a year ago, I left my career where I was earning over six figures, and I decided to start my business. People could not believe I was doing it. But again, I knew it was the right thing for me to do. I had some animosity towards the organization as I left, but that wasn't the driving force behind my decision. It was the fact that I wanted to do my own thing, and I wanted to do it for a while. In 2015, I started an MBA program, thinking once I got my MBA, I'd start my business. Master's in business, right? I could start a business. I am so happy I went back to school. I learned a ton, got to study business for a few weeks in China, and overall, I had a really fantastic experience. But when I graduated in 2017, I still didn't feel like I was ready. Feeling like we're ready. Do we ever feel like we are? I don't know. I know I didn't then, anyways. I didn't know what to do or how to do it. I couldn't decide on what business to start. I couldn't decide on anything really. So I kept working in a job that I knew wasn't right for me. This leap of faith, this betting on myself, in this case, starting my business, it took time. I bought the domain for my website, adriancrowley.com, in 2015. At that time, I also bought some domains for a few other business ideas I had at the time. I tinkered with WordPress and finally landed on Squarespace to build my site. This wasn't in 2015, mind you. This was stretched over the span of years. In 2021, I finally built out the website and then I let it sit for a year before I actually left my job and I didn't do anything with it. I was having the internal battle of not being good enough, questioning who am I to start a business, telling myself that everything I wanted to do is being done by somebody else already. Sound familiar? Anyone else? Just me? But finally, I hit my enough point. I didn't want my schedule to depend on others. I didn't want someone else to tell me when I could or couldn't take a day off. I didn't want to be locked into a location. I didn't want to be in a job where I couldn't use my creativity every day. I didn't want to take direction from someone else, build their vision, and go along to get along. I didn't want someone else to decide how much money I could make every year. I wanted to create my own thing, be out there in the world, share my experiences, help people decide on the life they want, and help them make a plan to create it. So I finally quit. I spent this last year rebuilding my website because the first iteration was not cute. I've been figuring out email marketing, trying to master pop-ups so they don't infuriate me or my potential clients. That one's still a work in progress. I've been coming up with topics that I'd talk about on this show, what I would share about my personal life, my professional life. I went back and forth on even having a podcast versus having a blog. I love to write. It's what I've done since I was a kid. Started journaling in second grade, so blogs seemed like the obvious good choice, but ultimately I decided why not both? I became a heart-centered facilitator through Danielle Laporte a few years back, so I have that curriculum and her exercises to work with. I'm currently going through the Wayfinder Life Coach training program with Martha Beck. I just finished up my grief educator certification through David Kessler. Life transition, life transformation, if you need work in those areas, I'm your girl. But look at me, right? Still collecting certifications to show the world that I am qualified. I say that sarcastically because now the things I choose to learn and the people I'm choosing to learn from, they're very intentional decisions. And I know it will enrich my life and my business. But anyways, all this to say, I had the desire to have my own business really since I was a kid. I like to think I dabbled in entrepreneurship, starting around age 7. I put a flag in the ground in 2015 when I started my MBA and bought some website domains. But it still took until 2022 to leave my job and 2023 to go all in on myself and make this dream a reality. For a lot of my life, I decided what I wanted to do, and I went for it. It didn't matter if it was risky. That's not to say I wasn't afraid or didn't have reservations, but I always went for it anyways. Although, when I was really young, I had a confidence that hadn't yet been pummeled by the world. And, it's something I still work every day to build back up. But little me, man, she had moxie. The thing is, life is going to be hard. It has been for as long as I can remember. But the hard is what makes it worth it. It doesn't seem like it when you're in it, obviously. But if everything you ever wanted was magically possible, would you appreciate it? I think there are very few things that compare to the feeling of going through a struggle and actually getting to the other side. So, this is your sign to bet on yourself. Decide what you want to do, make a plan, and go after it. Create the life you want. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of all that in some future episodes, but just think about this. If you sit in your unhappiness, you're just going to get older and still be unhappy. That's why you owe it to yourself to do the thing that's on your heart. It's going to be hard. You're going to fail. Keep doing it anyways. I like to think about failure as an invitation to try again. It's helped me. It's what I tell myself. Got a million mantras, but you'll get to where you want to be. And then you'll probably want to be somewhere else. Also a conversation for another day. But learn to fall in love with the process of figuring it out and fall in love with yourself because you're a badass who goes after what she wants. Let's be honest. If you don't bet on yourself, no one else will. You don't have to have everything figured out. You'll figure it out as you go. Might sound crazy, but it's true. It really is. It's been my plan throughout my life, and it's gotten me to this point. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and getting to know me a little bit better. Check out my website, www.adriancrowley.com, where you can find all of the information about my courses, coaching, and workshops. I also have a free guide to help you transform your negative self-talk, which I will link to in the show notes. We all have that nagging voice that comes up again and again, telling us what we can and can't do, usually what we can't do. It's difficult to work through it, get past it, and oftentimes we listen to it, much to our own chagrin. So definitely encourage you to check out that guide. Talk to you soon. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Thanks so much for joining me on the Live Your Truth, Love Your Life podcast. To get even more out of today's conversation, don't forget to swing by the show notes and download your freebie. Want to keep the conversation going? I'd love to hear what spoke to you most today. Head on over to my Instagram at Live Your Truth, Love Your Life and drop me a comment. I'm always excited to connect and learn more about you. Remember, the journey towards living your truth and loving your life is a rewarding one. New episodes are dropping each Monday and Thursday, and I can't wait for next time. Until then, have a fantastic week.